Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly commodities update video. This is where I do analysis on natural gas, oil, US dollar, gold, and silver. We're looking at their support and resistance levels, as well as the most likely scenario for price will potentially head to earlier next week. And if you guys are looking for the stock market update video, check out the video from yesterday where I did the QQ, S&P 500, as well as the Mag 7s. And let's get started on natural gas first. All right, so it looks like bears are still in full control for natural gas, and the bulls are still struggling a little bit, which is pretty much the nature of natural gas. Is usually on the bear side, and you get these big bull moves, right? And then it just slowly fades over time, right? Just like over here, just continues to fade and fade and fade, and the longer term trend is always in a downtrend. That being said, bulls still holding on to a sliver of hope, right? We're still above this last structure. So if bulls can hold here, then we may potentially have a longer term monthly time frame, right? Tiny range that may form up, but it's getting a little bit close here, right? Big move up, big move down. If bulls can hold here, maybe we'll get some kind of a tiny range sideways into end of the year. But bulls need to show up and change the trend, at least even on the short-term time frames. So they want to change at least the daily time frame here to their favor, for us to say, okay, this may be the bottom, right, for that monthly tightening range. Otherwise, we might just head to new lows, right? If your chart looks a little bit different from mine, this is natural gas futures. Make sure to click this B80J, adjusted for contract gaps, right? So you won't get these like all these contract gaps where they roll over. All right, so what I want to see from the bulls, pretty much here, we pretty much came right to support, right around this $3 mark. There's $3 psychological level, as well as this is higher support, right? Ounce higher resistance becomes support. That's a classic example of that. And now is acting as support here. Also, this falling wedge looking visual guideline, right? We bounce, 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 bounce. So it's holding on to this line so far as well, but that doesn't really mean much for bulls at all. So they want to pretty much first step. Let's see if it bounces here, and you don't want to see this line gets rejected again because it's only 2 touch right now. Just more for a visual guide. I just put it there because it may potentially reject from there again. Then we'll have a clear falling wedge. I like it when this 3 touches, then you know that pattern is more valid. That being said, I want a big move here, break above this line, and then break above this 3.38 prior support. Right, this is prior support. Now it's going to act as resistance. So we can do that. Then we have, let's say it comes up to here. Then we have no space for a higher low and a higher high. Higher low just means the low is higher than the prior low. So that forms the pivot. And we make a higher high, just means that it's higher than the prior pivot. So that becomes a daily uptrend. So we get an uptrend here, then we can start to zoom out to the higher time frames, the weekly and the monthly, potentially for a bigger move, back up to this 3.7 and maybe 3.9 level. For now, that's still too far away for bulls. Bulls really need the first step. That being said, for bears, if you're a bear, it is slowing down a little bit here, right? You can see big drop here, 4%, and then we just come back up again, another big drop here, and our bulls are kind of holding. So it's kind of like slowly slowing down here a bit, getting those lower lows, no follow through. Lower low just means new lows and no follow through. So that's the kind of a characteristic of a falling wedge. When you get new lows and you don't get that follow through from the bears, versus here, right, you just get absolute follow through. So if you're a bear, it's not that ideal down here to get in it. What I want to see is at least get shallow bounce here, right, and then you may potentially get back in on the short side if the setup does come up, but it's slowing down a little bit here. So Yeah. But if we do break this low, then we're going to be looking at closer to this 2.82, this prior low here. Break that, honestly, it's just this left, right? There's not much support left after we break 2.8, around this 2.85 zone. All right, feel free to ask any questions. You guys got any questions? And feel free to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And let's continue on with Will. All right, looks like we broke out finally on the tiny range. So we were looking at this pretty much picture perfect tiny range last week, right? Bounce, 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 jack, 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 and then we broke out on Tuesday. All right, so let's look at it now. So broke on Tuesday and didn't really go much higher because we just pretty much rejected from this structure, right? The low of this structure is the high of this rejection. And then we came back to back test where we broke out from. So what bulls want here is you want to set pretty much Friday's low as this low, right? This is prior resistance, broke out, back test. Now you want this to bounce, resistance turning into support, and then you want to bounce here and form a daily uptrend right there, and break this prior 70.5 high as a bull. Otherwise, might just be looking at a bigger tiny range, right? Big up, big down, big up. This can get tighter as well. Just become another tiny range. Pretty sure Trading View just moved my lines, but it's okay. Figure that out later. But so let's see if we can get that daily uptrend from the bulls. For the bears, you want to crack the low where we broke out from. This would just be a fake breakout, and it'll just continue to tighten up. Continue to tighten into a tiny range into the fall. All right, let's look at the US dollar. If you guys want to learn more about tech analysis and learn how to short or go long at particular areas and particular setups, take a look at the Patreon link or just book that 15-minute free call with me. We can talk more about it and what you want to work on. All right, let's look at the US dollar. So we talked about this inverse head and shoulders together, and it broke up. So we broke bull here, and now bulls have a lot of space, right? We have this talked about all the time, saying I want enough space for either bulls or the bears to create that space for room for when it does pull back, it can form a higher low and come from uptrends, right? You just have this tiny little bit bounce, right? 2 days of bear, you already, right? You don't have any space left for that higher low, higher high. But because this move was so big, even though it dropped a few days, the low is still going to be higher than the prior low. So the bulls can step up to break the new highs and confirm a uptrend. So that's how we have a daily uptrend pretty much right here. And with a inverse head and shoulders confirming as well at the same time. So inverse head and shoulders is nothing fancy, right? It's just a downtrend into a uptrend when it does break the neckline. And right now we're just backtesting, right? So prior resistance is pretty much the neckline. Now we're sitting right on it. So what, as a bull, you don't want to see this break through here and come back into the structure, because then this whole breakout was negated. As a bear, that's exactly what you see. If you're a bear, you want to see this breakdown and come back into this sideways structure again. But we did hit that perfect $100 mark around this $100 resistance, and then rolled over. But there's a lot of this week has been a roller coaster for a lot of news, right? Headlines, job numbers, geopolitical news, all that kind of stuff, right? So you get these huge moves on the dollar both ways. So be careful out there. All those headlines. That being said, Let's see if bulls can bounce here. If it does bounce here, pretty much right here, then we will be looking at this green line, which is this prior resistance. Rejection, 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 rejection. So it'll come up around here, which is also going to be coinciding with this couple resistance around here. So same spot around this 105 zone. And for bears, if you guys take it below this 98, then we're looking back down closer to 97.8 for me. Also, this 90.32 EMA is also going to act as support, right? Resistance, resistance, resistance. Broke out. Let's see if it holds here. That's like support. All right, let's take a look at gold and silver. All right, still just going sideways, right? Nothing new here. Didn't even break one pivot, right? We talked about like there's a tiny range here, and it broke bear for like one candle, right? But I wouldn't say it broke bear because this didn't really crack this pivot, right? Lowest pivot. This is a pivot, and we didn't even break this pivot on this little bear break, right? This is a bigger, kind of like a bigger tiny range, and this was like a smaller kind of like range here, and it broke bear a little bit here, but no follow through on the bears at all. This given moment, which kind of makes sense, right? It's a safe haven asset, so when you get all those headlines, you get this big move up on Friday. It's 1.5%, but we'll see how it digests early next week. But for now, still a win for the bulls because we are consolidating, going absolute sideways after a monster move. For how much percent it was? After a 30% move on gold, same move, and you're going sideways, consolidating, cooling off indicators, all that oversold indicator, whatever, on the side, going sideways. It's a 100% win for the bulls. I talked about this every week. What I want to see from the bears is that this structure turns into a distribution zone, which means that we will break down below these pivots, and then when it bounces, this whole zone acts as a resistance, and it will reject here and then roll over. But now we are not seeing that, so this still could be an accumulation zone. We don't know that yet. We will know this is accumulation when we do break this pivot and makes new high. But for now, it's just going sideways. So no surprises here for this week, at least. And silver looks like this would be relative weakness now. Silver. There's relative strength with this move up, and this move down was a little relative weakness. You can see 3% down, right? And this is a little blip on gold. And this dropped, quite a bit. So looks like silver's move is maybe done, but we'll have to see. It can come back anytime, right? We've seen silver just make these rip moves out of nowhere. So it has been relative strength from here to here, right? It has been relative weakness before that. For silver, it was going sideways while gold made a 30% move and did a little bit of catch up from here to here. But now it looks like that relative strength is fading. So if you're a silver bull here, be cautious because from here to here, that relative strength is fading a little bit. You can see, especially the last couple of days. Right, gold just went completely sideways, and then boom, broke above its prior days. Meanwhile, silver, right, dropped lower, and on that big move up, silver didn't even move. Right, it's like a 0.8%. It's nothing for silver. So this may be potentially shaping up a head and shoulders, and so be cautious of that. All right, that is I got for you guys. Feel free to support the channel, like, share, and subscribe is always appreciated. And I'll have a great rest of you guys' weekend. I'll see you guys next week for more stock market and commodities update. Take care.